today we're making a guide on Amaterasu. I'm going to teach you all the tips and tricks I know about her and the build I currently use in the Bifrost update. So let's get straight into that. We're first going to start off with Divine Trait. For Divine Traits, I personally use Blade's Edge. The attack after uppercut grants 10% ultimate charge if it is an air light second hit, or reduces all cooldown by 2 seconds if it is an air heavy. Now I love this for the simple fact that I can get my ultimate charge or reduce the cooldown on my uppercut if I choose to use that air heavy right after it. It's a lot more control in my pocket. Now I know a lot of people may use some other divine traits, but this one for me stands out the most. But if you do want to use something else, you can use Way of the Blade. Dodge travels further and your attack deals an additional 1 damage and all abilities are on cooldown. But for me, in my opinion, I personally think it just is not as good as Blade's Edge. Now we're going to go into the minor traits. Now this minor trait is a must-have. If you do not have this, you're going to have a big problem spiking people into oblivion. You need to have Banishment. Air heavy attacks launch the enemy more downwards when their vulnerability is above 80%. Let me tell you, the best part about Amaterasu is her spikes. That is something I have fun with. I could literally make a 2-hour montage right now of just the amount of times I've spiked people to oblivion. Whether it be 1v1, 2v2, or 3v3, spiking people is all it's about when you're playing this character. It's the best way to also make people rage quit, and it's hilarious. Okay, so for the next minor trait, we're gonna go with Empowered Aura. Now this is gonna make a lot more sense when we get to the rest of the build and when I explain it. So when an ally or Amaterasu is buffed, the buff grants an additional 50% knockback, and again, this is also going to greatly increase the Spike Queen's ability as well as helping you knock people out a lot faster. And let me tell you, you're going to have this buff proccing so many times when you're playing Amaterasu in any single mode. It's going to be the best build you ever have for this character. So now we're going to go into the last minor trait. Now for this one, you do have 2 options. Me personally, I stick to one, and we're going to start off with that one, which is absolutely dashing. Heavenly Strike grants an additional 7.5% ultimate charge when hitting an enemy. Now, honestly, this ability is one that I'm 50-50 with, but I personally think since it is very powerful, having that extra ultimate charge does help you with Amaterasu, since when it's up, people don't like to come near you at all. So the next one you can use is also Unrelenting Assault. Critical strikes from Sunseeker Dash reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds. Now, if you're very good at aiming Sunseeker Dash, I'd probably choose this option. I'm not the greatest at it. I mean, I do some really nice plays, some really great maneuvers with 10,000 IQ, but at the same time, I'm not so confident in it because I miss it most of the time. So that's why I don't really use it as my first option. Plus, absolutely dashing just sounds better. Okay, now we're going to go into Greater Blessings. Now, for the Greater Blessings, there's only one real choice. I mean, yes, there are other options, but me personally, I always use Sun Wukong's Momentum to gain 25% movement speed for 15 seconds on dealing a critical strike. Why? Because this allows me to 1, get additional movement speed to either engage on my opponent, retreat, or just do some nice little light attacks. Who knows? I could just kite him around all day with this additional movement speed, since Amaterasu is known for her critical strikes, as she's the crit spike queen. Also, it allows me to use Empowered Aura. So once I get this buff, and it happens so often with every light attack fury or just any damage I do, then I just get the Empowered Aura, and now I have an additional 15% knockback. So in 1v1 or teams, I am deadly. This is why this completes this build so perfectly. Now we're going to go into the best part of the video. This is where I give you the tips needed to play Amaterasu to her full potential, and we're going to start off with the most important thing about Amaterasu, and that is her spike. I don't care what you say or anybody else says, the spiking on Amaterasu is perfection. It feels better on her than any other character. So you're going to need to learn how to use your air attacks, air light, air heavy. Your air light does a little slash forward, and your air heavy is the main thing you need to master. It slams people into the ground, and as you heard from this build, it gives you so much extra knockback that you're going to be able to spike people into oblivion once they're a little bit over an 80% vulnerability. So once they go over the map, that's always what you're looking for. Even if their mobility is down and their vulnerability is, let's say, 40%, you still have the option of knocking them down far enough where they just won't be able to get back on the platform. So again, that is the main thing you need to master with Amaterasu. Also note when there are certain circumstances that calls for you just using your air light attacks. And the reason you're doing this is very simple. It's going to allow you to get some distance between you and your opponent. I use my air light attack combo very often. It allows me to push my opponent off the map enough for me to set up for a spike, even if it's just for me to buy time. And let me tell you, it does a lot of damage. Amaterasu is known as the crit queen as well. All her attacks just deal such immense damage, you don't want to get caught by anything she can do. Which is why when you're playing against her, it can be very difficult when you're fighting a very good player. Another thing you need to master is the way she glides through the sky. Now, Amaterasu is just like any of those Chinese movies from way back in the day that you can see those people flying through the sky with their sword, slicing and dicing all over the place. So the way you can master the air using your attacks to stay up longer than any other character in the game, you have more dominance than Zeus when it comes to the sky. Now, your abilities don't keep you up in the air, but just your normal attacks and jump. This will allow you to maneuver around your enemy's abilities or just their attacks easily, allowing yourself to also do damage to them and knock them around. And that's the best part about Amaterasu. Another thing you need to learn is with your Sunseeker Dash. Now, when you're using your Sunseeker Dash, right at the end of it, you're going to have the ability to catch them up and knock them straight up in the sky, and you can do any combo you want. It also works perfectly to knock people out of oblivion once they have high vulnerability. But another way I love to use it, if somebody knocks me off of the map and I know my Sunseeker Dash is about to come up, what I love to do is wait a little bit. So I'll back myself up at a perfect distance since they're waiting for me at the edge, use my Sunseeker Dash, and then it collects them up, allowing me to turn it around and do some damage on them. These are all combos that can be used, as she is also the combo queen. Everything she does is perfection when it comes to that. Using the uppercut is something else you need to master as well. The uppercut enables you the ability to interrupt almost anything they can push at you in the game, and that is something you really want to learn how to use. It also is a great way to set people up. Instead of jumping in the sky to interrupt them, to spike them down, you can use it to do some nice damage or interrupt their ability, follow up with an air light into air heavy, and that is a perfect combo right there. Another thing to note, with your Suncrest uppercut, it now allows you to get something very good out of Blade Edge, which is your divine talent. You get extra ultimate charge, or you can reduce the cooldown of it if you just use an air heavy on that ability. All these things come into place to help you play Amaterasu to the best. Now, when it comes to her ultimate, something you really do need to understand is that her ultimate is extremely powerful. If you catch somebody off 80% above vulnerability and they're at the edge of the map, that ultimate is going to destroy them and knock them out. Another thing to also note, if they're over 120%, it's a guaranteed knockout almost everywhere on the map once they don't have any heavy damage or knockback reduction. Another thing to note, you can catch multiple enemies in your ultimate. So on a 3v3 map, it is possible to catch all 3 opponents in that ultimate and you can knock them all out at the same time. One of the main things that makes her ultimate so deadly is that you can use this in the sky. You can combo this off your moves compared to other characters, which is why she is the combo queen herself. If you're using Sunseeker Dash and you catch your opponent in there, they're unable to move and you can literally wait at the end of that rotation and use your ultimate and you can knock them straight out of the map. Or you can use your uppercut and do the same thing, or just catch them in the sky. It is so deadly. There are so many different combo options when it comes to Amaterasu, which is why she's so skill based. Yes, I will be honest with you, she can be hard to fight at times, but she's not unstoppable. She's easy to maneuver around as an opponent, so there are cons to her playstyle. However, for this guide, you need to understand how to use her. So that's, we're just going to stick to the positives right now, and her light attacks are deadly. That is something main about Amaterasu. Using her light attack flurry will get somebody from 0% to 100% vulnerability in a couple seconds if you keep light attacking them off. And let me tell you, it is super powerful. Now, a combo that I want you guys to understand with Amaterasu, out of all the characters in Divine Knockout that I have seen, if a Sun Wukong is popping his clone, if you get to the right distance of him and you do a hold heavy attack, you're gonna destroy the original Monkey King himself and send him flying out of the map if he's above 80% vulnerability. The amount of times you've probably seen me do it in all my Amaterasu gameplays fighting a Wukong. Now, another thing you do also need to know, you can also interrupt abilities when you're using your Heavenly Strike. Now, your Heavenly Strike is a 50-50 in terms of it's a double-edged sword. When you use it and you miss your opponent, you are vulnerable for about a second. So you need to try your best to land that on your enemy as soon as possible. If you miss, you better be spamming that dodge button to try to get out, or just try anything possible to avoid damage, but there isn't much you can do. So hitting your opponent with that is very deadly. You can also knock people out of the map with it very easily when they're over 120 to 150% vulnerability, depending on your placement on the map. Another thing to note, this interrupts almost any ability your enemy can throw at you. Obviously, there are exceptions such as Ymir's Fire or Ice Breath, depending on the skin you're playing, or King Arthur's Stun. But more or less, you have so many interrupts, you can deal out so much damage as Amaterasu, and you have a lot of combos to work with, especially your beautiful Spike. And I think that's the main part of this video. That Spike is super powerful. So how do you play Amaterasu? What are the tips you use and your build guide? For me, this has always worked the best, and I love the fact that they did Blade's Edge. It made such a big difference, in my opinion, to the game style when they added it with the Bifrost update. And even though she's lacking the lesser blessings, she still feels super powerful. I personally, again, love the fact that lesser blessings are removed. The game feels so much more balanced, and it allows you to combo off and deal with a lot of the characters that were near impossible to fight than before. Oh, one more thing I should mention, she does have some of the coolest attacks in the game, and I believe she also has the most skins. Amaterasu skin is a must skin to have. I can't wait to see what they will add for her later in the game. So that's it. Hope this guide helps you become the best Amaterasu player out there. If I missed anything, don't worry about it. I'm always going to be making updated guides for almost every patch when the character calls for it. GG, and I'll see you next time. Bye.